there, when the Goswamis, they were very, very opulent. Just imagine chief minister, and then, like even like the home minister, chief minister. Think of it like the most important posts in the king's this thing, and the king was always dependent on them. That's so much wealth, so much opulence, so many. You can imagine how many servants they should have had. How much staff and this and that and ever. They were at the peak of their opulence. Not that that was declining. Somebody had come and there was some attack or something like that. Or they're getting old. No, they were at the peak. And then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they heard of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and their desire to serve him became very, very deep. Right? What does Rupa Goswami do? He takes the pretext of being sick, and they will sit at home, and what do? Read Bhagavatam. Right? They'll sit this thing whole day. Is saying is calling in sick, and he's sitting and reading Bhagavatam. One day went by, 2 days went by, so many days went by. Right? And then the king said that something is wrong. How can you be sick for so long? Right? And so then he suddenly shows up. Surprise visit. And he is like happily sitting there, and everybody is surrounding him. They're sitting and reading this. See, but by this time, Rupa Goswami would have already left. Right? Sanatana Goswami is into this. Let's actually read here from the. And so that's why he becomes even more upset. So this is in the Madhya Leela. After meeting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the village of Ramakeli, the brothers Rupa and Sanatana returned to their homes. The two brothers devised a means whereby they could give up their material activities. For this purpose, they appointed 2 brahmanas and paid them a large amount of money. The brahmanas performed religious ceremonies and chanted the holy names of Krishna, so that the 2 brothers might attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very soon. At this time, Sri Rupa Goswami returned home, taking with him large quantities of riches loaded in boats. They had that much money, gold. They had to load in boats to take. You can imagine. Sri Rupa Goswami divided the wealth that he brought back home. He gave 50% in charity to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas and 25% to his relatives. He kept 1/4 of his wealth with a respectful Brahmana. He kept this for his personal safety because he was expecting some legal complications. He deposited 10,000 coins, which were later spent by Sri Sanatana Goswami in the custody of a local Bengali grocer. Sri Rupa Goswami heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had returned to Jagannath Puri and was preparing to go to Vrindavan through the forest. Sri Rupa Goswami sent 2 people to Jagannath Puri to find out when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would depart for Vrindavan. Sri Rupa Goswami told the 2 men, "You are to return quickly and let me know when he will depart. Then I shall make the proper arrangements." While Sanatana Goswami was in Gauda Desha, he was thinking, "The Nawab is very pleased with me. I certainly have an obligation. If the Nawab somehow or other becomes angry with me, I shall be greatly relieved." That is my conclusion. On the pretext of bad health, Sanatana Goswami remained home. Then he gave up government service and did not go to the royal court. The greedy masters of his clerical and secretarial staff performed the governmental duties while Sanatana personally remained home and discussed the revealed scriptures. Sri Sanatana Goswami used to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam in an assembly of 20 or 30 learned Brahmana scholars. While Sanatana Goswami was studying Srimad Bhagavatam in the assembly of learned Brahmanas, one day the Nawab of Bengal and another person suddenly appeared. As soon as all the Brahmanas and Sanatana Goswami saw the Nawab appear, they all stood up and respectfully gave him a sitting place to honor him. The Nawab said, I sent my physician to you, and he has reported that you are not deceased. As far as he could see, you are completely healthy. I am depending on you to carry out so many of my activities, but you have given up your governmental duties to sit here at home. You have spoiled all my activities. What is your intention? Please tell me frankly. Sanatana Goswami replied, you can no longer expect any service from me. Please arrange for someone else to tend to the management. Becoming angry with Sanatana Goswami, the Nawab said, your elder brother is acting just like a plunderer. By killing many living entities, your elder brother has destroyed all Bengal. Now here, you are destroying all my plans. Sanatana Goswami said, you are the supreme ruler of Bengal and completely independent. Whenever someone commits a fault, you punish him accordingly. Hearing this, the Nawab of Bengal stood up and returned to his home. He ordered the arrest of Sanatana Goswami so that he would not be able to leave. And so many other things happen. So this is a very nice description of how both the Goswamis, very, very exalted, Vaishnavas, who are very, very opulent backgrounds. They left everything for serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. You had another point, Mataji? Somebody else you said? Bali Maharaj, yes, he also gave up his, kingdom when he was requested alms by Vamanadeva. In contrast, we see that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a description of the opposite side. Somebody who was very attached and, something had to be done. Who is that? Huh? What is that? Chitraketuva. Was too attached to what? Like son and this thing. And then Providence had to teach him, by losing his son. That's also a good example. Yes. He was very attached, and Brahma had to come and say, what is this big life? Get out of it. Dhritarashtra. In the Bhagavatam first canto, in the 13th chapter, Viduras preaching to Dhritarashtra is a very good example, because it's a contrast. See, Dhritarashtra, was in such a very, very bad situation at that time. Right? Vidura comes and tells him, my dear brother, because he is his brother. Right? Whole life you are scheming to kill these Pandavas. Right? And then you did so, you and your sons, you actively encouraged them. You didn't stop them. You and your sons did, so many schemes of trying to eliminate the Pandavas. And then finally the whole Mahabharata war was fought. And all of your sons were killed in this battlefield. Every one of his 100 sons was killed. Despite that, he uses very strong words, Vidura. What does he say? like a dog, right? So I'll just read one or two verses from there. It's very interesting to understand the contrast of this. Um, Mahatma Vidura knew all this. Therefore, he addressed Dhritarashtra saying, "My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Just see how fear has overtaken you. This frightful situation cannot be remedied by any person in this material world. My Lord, it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as eternal time Kala that has approached us all. Whoever is under the influence of Supreme Kala, eternal time, must surrender his most dear life, and what to speak of other things, Jai Srila Prabhupada, such as wealth, honor, children, land and home. Your father, brother, well-wishers and sons are all dead and passed away. You yourselves have expended the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity and you are living in the home of another. You have been blind from your very birth, and recently you have become hard of hearing. Your memory is shortened and your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth are loose. Your liver is defective and you are coughing up mucus. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, all the problems of Jara. These teeth are so important. Every day we're so dependent on it for eating. Imagine all your teeth become loose and they go away. So much difficulty. Alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living being to continue his life. Verily, you are living just like a household dog and are eating remnants of food given by Bhima. Particularly Bhima is mentioned. There is no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those whom you try to kill by arson and poisoning. You also insulted their married wife and usurped their kingdom and wealth. Despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live, even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserable body is certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. He is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown remote place and free from all obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless. He is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands either by himself or from others the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart. Please therefore leave for the north immediately, without letting your relatives know, for soon the time will approach which will diminish the good qualities of men. Thus Maharaj Dhritarashtra, the son of the family of Ajamedha, firmly convinced by introspective knowledge, prajna, broke at once the strong network of familial affection by his resolute determination. Thus, he immediately left home to set out on the path of liberation as directed by his younger brother Vidura. So we see here in the Vedic tradition this concept of vanaprastha was practiced by the top three varnas, the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas. All three of them used to practice this. And there are very interesting elements of this, right? He's not telling him, make a big fanfare and have a big send-off party and all that. You just go away without anybody knowing. And it says specifically, go to a place, remote place. Right? He is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown remote place, and freed from all obligations, and quits his material body when it has become useless. So, we see here, there's another contrast that is given in the life of Dhritarashtra, who was clinging on to his kingdom, he was clinging on to his palatial existence, despite so many challenges he had faced, and everything that he held near and dear is being taken away from him. And still, like Vidura is telling very strongly words he is using, like a dog, you are living in their house. Does it give you any this thing that you are such a big emperor, you are Kshatriya, especially for a Kshatriya? This is worse than death. Dishonor is worse than death. Now, what are the sort of the lessons we can learn for our own life, and how does Srila Prabhupada encourage us to practice this? So Srila Prabhupada's practical ways of practicing this, he taught by his own example, and then he illustrated very deeply and clearly in many of our the books he has written, some lectures and conversations. Anybody remembers in what age and what year Srila Prabhupada left home? Actually, it was 1950, and he was 54 years old. At that time, Srila Prabhupada, retires to Vrindavan. And later in 53, he goes to Jhansi. 53, 54, that's the time. But in 50, he left home. And wanted to dedicate himself fully to fulfill the mission of his spiritual master. Now, Srila Prabhupada talked about how, this detachment and all that, it is not like, overnight, suddenly one day, if you live a life of attachment and you're constantly, going on, increasing your obligations, right? Do obligations anyway decrease as you get older? Only increases, right? First you are alone, right? Now you marry somebody, all your number of people just doubles instantly. Father, mother, father-in-law, mother-in-law, brother, sister, now brother-in-law, sister-in-law, this thing. And they grow up, right? And there's a time when everybody is getting married, then there's so many marriages you attend, and all of them have children, and their children are growing up, and then the children get this thing, and then they start marrying. Your samsara is like going on. Huh? Geometric progression, actually, yes. Right? And when you sometimes meet some elderly people, they'll say, yeah, I have 4 children, 10 grandchildren, and this great big list is so huge. Your immediate family, blood family is so huge. So like this material world is designed like this. But one has to detach oneself. Right? When a beautiful example is given, and like South Indians can relate to this. What example anybody remembers? When I say South Indians can relate to this, maybe this thing. What example? Huh? No, how you detach. One fruit example is given. Like a coconut. Right? See, coconut from outside, if you look, it looks like a coconut. And when it starts drying up also, it looks exactly like that. But as it dries up and becomes this thing, it detaches itself from the external covering. And it's completely detached. When you take this thing out, you break it, the outside shell, hard shell is somewhere else, and this is completely detached. So like that, internally our detachment from this material bondage has to happen. And Srila Prabhupada is actually very nicely saying that Maharaj Yayati was immediately liberated from the bondage of conditioned life is certainly astonishing. See, he was not a candidate by normal parts of this thing. He was not practicing. He was not this thing. That's why I'm saying it's certainly astonishing. Because Maharaj Yayati, he was actually cursed to become an old person. But he went and got a remediation and asked his son himself to give up his youth to him. Can you imagine? Your own house, you are young and your son is much, much older than you. Right? It's a constant reminder that something you're doing, incorrect. But he had not gotten that. But he says that he surrendered unto the Supreme Lord. So this detachment has to come within. You cannot make a show of this. One has to seek liberation or freedom from material bondage from the Supreme Lord. That's why when many times we say it says, Ye tam mam prapadyante tam sateva bhajamyaham. The Lord is willing to give us anytime. But we have to ask. We have to sincerely ask. Not some spashana mairagya, sometimes this thing happens, some problem happens. Suddenly say, this family is useless. And next day, this thing, that thing, all attached, this thing, I have to hold on to this, my money, my this thing, my family, my problem, my this thing, my, me and mine. So this, one has to show by practical example. One has to ask, one has to seek. And then when you seek, when you act on it, then Krishna immediately gives. Like he surrendered over here sincerely. And Krishna immediately gave him detachment. Enough detachment that he could just walk away from all of that without even looking back. Right? So, the important lesson for all of us is that one, we have to at least aspire for it. We have to seek, actively seek and work on this. And very practical example is given. Right? What is the transition that has to happen in a Vanaprastha, in a person's outlook? The Vasudeva Kutumbakam. That should be your mantra. It is no longer me, mine, my own family, my own this thing. Right? How everybody is your family. And it's such a wonderful thing also, right? Everybody knows that is people's relationships and the people that surround you is what keeps you happy, and live a nice, this best possible life in this world. And that is what Shastras are telling. Truly, one should live and act in such a way that everybody is your family. Think of just like, for your own children or for your own parents or something, you make so many plans. I should do this thing. If this doesn't happen, I will do that. So much plans we make. Like that, we should make actively plans for how we can benefit everybody we touch, everybody that surrounds us. So that is how one has to practically live that life. See, our whole philosophy is it all just to be in the consciousness. It's not the external thing, just like a coconut. Outside it looks very similar. What is happening inside, that the coconut should know. You should know what is happening inside. Are you detached from this material engagement? Right? That should be something that we should practice internally. And such wonderful examples are there in our Shastras and practical ways of doing this that we should all follow. Before I end, anybody has any quick questions or comments? No questions? Everybody has a clear plan? Yeah. 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 It's not overnight. Yeah, so what was the specific question? So Vanaprastha thankfully begins at 50. So the detachment should practically start at 50. And you have till 75 for the coconut to fully detach. But at 75, that was the Vedic tradition. That is why when sannyasa is taken, right, in the Vedic tradition, the sannyas is when you're officially dead. The sannyas ceremony is actually your death ceremony from a societal perspective, right? And at that point, one is practically detaching themselves completely from any connection to their, the previous life and all that, and fully dedicating, completely dedicating for the Lord's mission, right? But one can practice this at all stages. One can practice this as a grihastha also, to a certain extent. You can't say, after marrying, you can't say, oh, I won't take, I'm completely detached. You have responsibilities. That once you've taken that step, one has to fulfill that obligation. But do it in a detached way. Everything is all about attachment. How attached, and it's all in your consciousness and your actions, how attached you are or how detached you are. Right? And these are very practically visible through your actions. Right? They say actions speak louder than words. You can talk nice things, but what is your action? How are you acting? What is your consciousness? One has to think and act on those things. And when you do that, we will see we get the reciprocation from the Lord. And the beauty of this is, if one practices this nicely, at every stage it is very, very enjoyable. Being a vanaprastha, detached from all obligations, happily living, in the engaged in the Lord's service all the time. So much detachment, so much, everything is easy, happy, no obligation, nothing to do. Prasadam somehow it arranges, this thing, everything is there, and lot of opportunity for service. What else do you want? Right? So that is why Prabhupada created a wonderful movement at every stage of life, from brahmacharya to grihastha to vanaprastha, sannyas, every stage of life. Very nice and easy way for you to practice and internalize this in your life. Okay? So let us all pray to Srila Prabhupada to give us the intelligence at the right time to act on these things. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Bol Premanande.